Today I'm having one of those. I'm going to be talking about this and that, and James is having that, and his smoothie is strawberry banana, and mostly he'll be talking about that, and I guess he brought those out just in case. So,
for comparative purposes.
Yeah, I'm gonna eat and then I'm gonna get to work, so mostly you're gonna be listening to James here.
Lucky.
So I watched this while I was seeding tomatoes, and I watched this one first, so I made it all the way through. I put this one on second while I was seeding tomatoes. I didn't make it all the way through. This is 2 discs.
You had to turn it off, or did you fall asleep?
Well, I seeded tomatoes, and when I finished seeding tomatoes, I was like, man, this is boring. I don't know. I realize that they want to try to interest people in becoming engineers, maybe. But I don't know if our society's really been breeding engineers, so raising engineers. So I think that's a problem. But yeah, this contains a special educational. This special educational 2 DVD edition offers the complete movie along with a 150-page educator's guide, 12 lesson plans, including handouts, 10 educational shorts, 8 behind-the-scenes featurettes, and 8 more short fun fact videos. This set brings the wonder of engineering to life for students everywhere. I don't know if they're going to have any kind of luck with that. So if this was supposed to contain a book, I got it from the library, it does not. So that's one thing.
You might have to check it out independently or something.
Maybe you do. So yeah, because it might not fit in there. I don't know. But I'm just going to mention that just in case people are like, oh wow, that sounds great. Well, it didn't come with the book, not to me.
150 pages is chicken feed if you actually want to learn something.
Yeah. So anyway, Petra, yeah, it's very pretty and whatever. It does make you want to, anybody who lives near the mountains, they probably have thought about, oh, wouldn't it be great to have a gnome kingdom? Drill homes into the mountains and whatever, so choking on my spit.
There was a Buddha or so in a place called Bamiyan in Afghanistan that was dug into a mountain, and then the Taliban took it out.
Yeah.
And then in the United States, Mount Rushmore, 4 of the more enlightened presidents of the United States, eventually, I suppose the MAGA gang, to channel Jimmy Kimmel, will blow that up and deface it with a picture of Donald Trump's rear end.
I don't think that's true, but...
How would you be able to tell the difference? All they have to do is put a comb over on top of it. It'd be hard to tell the difference.
All right. So anyway, I don't know. They figured out some things about
Petra.
Mm-hmm. And honestly, both of those were really annoying to watch. And I'm actually kind of interested in the stuff, but I really don't like when they try to, when they add really cool music or what they think is cool music to something like this, and thinking, oh,
with electronica?
Yeah, thinking people are going to really get into this now because we're making it cool and modern. I don't like that. So anyway, it was just annoying, and I guess maybe they did that with the Petra one because they were thinking, well, this is cutting edge technology
that they were using on it. They were trying to emphasize that it was cutting edge technology for its time, putting it up, I think.
Well, that's true too. Yeah, they were trying to. So maybe that. Anyway, but no, they were using like ground penetrating radar and stuff like that.
Mhm.
Because they were talking about Petra and how most of it they could be digging forever and ever, like, well, for a long time, and keep finding stuff. So
Well, they were
what I
saying it
was,
was a huge. This is just the stuff that you see in the movies, like Raiders of the Lost
yeah,
Ark or whatever, is a very small amount of a
yeah.
very large area.
So one thing that they were talking about that I found interesting was how they'd made a desert oasis out of it. They'd had lead pipes to pipe in water to make it so there was like a great big, I guess maybe swimming pool or whatever, but it was part of a garden, so maybe it was like a kind of garden feature too. And so I found that kind of interesting. And it made me think that maybe the lost city of Atlantis was that. Maybe that's how it was lost, is it's just not being flooded anymore it's not a big water garden piped in. And
Hard to say about
since
it,
the
man.
water wasn't piped in, the garden died and there's nothing. I don't know.
I think Plato's story was Atlantis was outside the gate pillars of Hercules.
Oh.
So that's one side is the Rock of Gibraltar. There's another thing on the other side. Arabic name, actually.
Interesting.
Gibber, something like Gibber al-Tar or something like that. Turned into Gibraltar, or Gibber al-Tar. The original Arabic with where there's a J, there's originally a G. They still preserve that pronunciation in Gamal, but you've heard Jamal, same word, Jamal. Most Arabs say Jamal. Gamal Abdul, or whatever his name was, Nasser.
So I should have put a pink straw, because most of the blender was full of strawberries.
Okay.
But I didn't have any pink straws left. There is banana in there, but way more strawberries.
But it's interesting what you say about Atlantis maybe being like this. This is well within the Pillars of Hercules or the Straits of Gibraltar. Why it's actually east of the Mediterranean, not west of the Mediterranean. But some people say Atlantis was in a big lake in the middle of what is now the Sahara, called Lake Triton.
Yeah, because they used to pipe in water for great distances, really, too. I don't know. Anyway.
I want to point out that this is you can see it's classical architecture. If you can't see it, think of Raiders of the Lost Ark, classical architecture. It's not Muslim. So look at it, I think, in present-day Jordan, southern part of Jordan.
Yeah, they told who had made it.
They're called the
remember.
Nabateans.
Okay.
So at least that's what they figure. You know, that was around, I'm not sure exactly, around the time of the Roman Empire. But the Nabateans, you'll find records of people, the name is almost surely an Assyrian rendering of the Nabateans, maybe between 700 and 600, 650 BC, a long time before the Romans, at least the Roman Empire. That, folks, is 650 years before. Of course, when we're dealing with ancient history, a lot of people just hand wave, 650 years, that's just chump change, but it isn't. You go 650 years and we consider modern times, recent times, better term. Well, that's before Shakespeare, it's before Columbus, it's before Copernicus, that sort of stuff. So it's a long, long time. The Nabateans put that up before the Muslims. what happened? You got stupid chimps who don't understand things. You know, the
I'm gonna go
Spanish
harvest tomatoes.
irrigation system disappeared once the Muslims got out of there, or their, the way it's put is they were ethnically cleansed. Finally, by Ferdinand and Isabella, the folks who sent Columbus sailing across the ocean, and in 1492. Interesting. I don't know if we can trust that at all. I suspect the Arabs and Muslims generally, it wasn't just the Arabs who were imperializing and colonizing, both absolutely shameful. Spain, they were doing it in parts of Spain, significant parts of Portugal for less time, but parts of Spain for 781 years. And I'm not exaggerating. It's actually, they were messing around even before 711 AD. They were trying to invade Spain. But 711 to 1492, do the math. I believe it comes out to 781. 781. Okay? 781 years. That's almost 8 centuries. Well over 7 centuries of brutalization, vandalization, rape, burning, destruction, slave taking, on and on. Absolutely unforgivable. What happened under Ferdinand and Isabella was just an ongoing process of decolonization, de-imperialization. It had to be done. That's just the way it goes. You can't allow people who've already stomped you and stomped you and stomped you, and they're stomping people elsewhere, for example in southeastern Europe. Ongoing. 1492, the Muslims' hash wasn't settled in kind of a Middle Europa, Middle Europe, till 1683. That's almost 200 years later. 200 years of Muslim, in this case Turkish, imperialization, colonization, razzias or raids. The word razzias is Italian, but it's actually an adaptation of a relatively poor one, of a Muslim or of an Arabic word. Don't believe me? Check it out. Well, maybe my source is wrong. I doubt it. Raiding, slave taking, jihad, which is a brutal form of, a totally unjust form of crusade. The Crusades were defensive in nature. Check it out. Might not like to hear that. It's just the way it is. Jihad, sometimes it was defensive in nature, defending stuff that had already been conquered unjustly by Muslims, Arabs in particular, but following that by Turks, and also people from North Africa. Moors, as they were called. Unjustly. So when you defend your ill-gotten gains, your goods taken by force, you don't have a right to do that. In almost every case, jihad, defensive, just obviously offensive, but defensive has historically been indefensible. Indefensible defense. When you're defending stolen goods, you don't have a right to do that. You don't have a right to take those goods in the first place. Anyway, Petra, what happened? Taken over by Muslims. Jordan, the central part of Jordan. The native language is not Arabic. Nowadays it is considered that, official language. The native language is called Ammonite. Ammonite. In the south, more where Petra is, the native language would be Edomite. Not Arabic, Edomite. Arabs are not native there. Some of the people might be descended from Ammonites and Edomites and stuff like that, Nabateans. but those folks would be mestizo. Now, I don't know if there are any people who identify as native people in Jordan. They'd be Christian in Jordan or in southern part of Israel or whatever, who are not Jews in the case of Israel. But the native people of present-day Syria, they're the real native people. Their native language would be, for many of them, for their ancestors at least, would be Aramaic, a Semitic language related to Arabic and Hebrew. But the people who use Aramaic scriptures for their holy work are Christians, the ones who survived ISIS. Same thing in the northern part of Iraq. Native people are Assyrians, the ones who survived ISIS, who have their I don't know if they have much scripture written in their original language, but they're Assyrians. Assyrians. AS in front of Syria. Assyrians. That would be the native language in the northern part of Iraq. And we've got records of ancient Assyrians going back to, well, they claim about 1800 BC. It's probably a little bit later than that, but not much earlier than 1700. That's BC, folks. BC. Native to there. The native language of northern part of half, roughly, of Iraq is not Arabic. Now the official language is Arabic. The natives, such as they are, the ones that haven't mixed or been forced to be concubines and stuff like that and have progeny and eventually became Muslim, they are Christians and they're not Arabs. They actually had records. The ancient Assyrians had records of fighting people they called the Aribi, and it doesn't take much imagination, it doesn't take much knowledge of linguistics and geography to realize that the people they called Aribi were what we call Arabs. Different religion, but there you go. So they were dealing with the Aribi as early as, I recall, as early as 853 BC. Aribi, different people from the Assyrians. The native people of Turkey are not, I repeat, not, that's N-O-T, all caps, exclamation mark after, and actually in the Spanish style, exclamation mark before, not Turks, and not Muslims. Some of them are Armenians, some of them would be Hittites, some of them would be Greeks. Got that straight? Greeks. Greeks were there in the western part of Turkey up until almost the time my dad was born. My dad died a long time ago, 2.5, 3 years ago. That's how recently Greeks were ethnically cleansed from part of their native homelands. The Hittites recorded, Hittites spoken Indo-European language, not a Turkic language, nothing related to Turkish, nothing at all. The Turks didn't really get heavily into that area. Anatolia, what we call present-day Turkey, until almost 1100 AD. Got that straight? 1100 AD. We'll say 1000 AD. 1000. According to traditional dating, that's roughly 2,500 years before Greeks were recorded in the western part of Turkey. 2,500 years is a long time. That's longer, significantly longer, the time between us, the Roman Empire, or when the Romans were crucifying Jesus. 2,500 years. Now, the dating system is wrong. But the Greeks, it's off by 500 years, but the Greeks were there roughly 900 BC. There's no way you can fight it. some Greeks were there in the western part of Turkey, giving the Hittites trouble, or the Hittites were giving them trouble. I don't think the Hittites were there much longer than the Greeks. From what I can tell, the Hittites moved into there. It could have been as recently as 250 years before they were recording the Greeks living there. Yeah. But yeah, what happened to the irrigation system? You know, like there are people who say, "Oh, look what happened when the Mongols stomped into Iraq," and they actually did. They came from Mongolia, which is north of China. Parts of Inner Mongolia, as they call it, parts of Mongolia are actually within China. But they made it all the way to Iraq, and they did a lot of destruction. And apologists for Islam go around saying, "Oh man, they never recovered." When was that? Like 1258 AD? 1250, something like that? Plenty of time to recover. It took the Germans and the Japanese to start recovering a long 6 years. Of course, there was stuff like the Marshall Plan and so on and so on. The Americans were helping out. But for Pete's sake, you know, that's like 650 years and couldn't recover. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, like similar, you'll find classical ruins in the northern part of Libya. Pauline was talking about there being irrigation, water standing around in kind of like pools, wading pools. I don't know what exactly. Leptis magna, Leptis, as I recall. New word, Magna, Leptis magna, I believe is the name of one of those places. And it looks as though they had water. What happened? Must have had irrigation. What happened? Classical times, before the Muslims? It's flourishing after the Muslims? Anything about it? Oh, it's desiccation, desertification. Yeah, you know, like if you've got folks grazing, I think it's particularly goats and sheep, on land where you can graze cattle and stuff like that, you're going to cause desertification. It's just that way. It's happening in neighboring areas neighboring on Somalia. There'll be some drying out, a drought or something like that, maybe climate change, and the nomadic pastoralists will come in and just run their herds on agricultural land. It's happening even as we speak. There's a lot of things that are politically correct, and in this case, climatologically correct, that maybe are a little more complicated than they've been presented. When I was a kid, everyone was talking about the Sahel being turned into a desert. The Sahara's moving south. No, it's nomads moving south, contributing at the very least. I think there's been things like climate change, but it's been exacerbated by nomads moving in and stripping the land. What's it caused by? Well, to a large extent, overpopulation. All of a sudden, folks who are living pastoral nomads, not pastoral nomads, they've benefited from improved healthcare and stuff like that, and they've had huge population increases. And the ability of the various lands that they've traditionally owned to carry population doesn't change. You increase the population, you're going to have problems. Welcome to the real world, not the politically correct world, okay? I want to talk about Jimmy Kimmel. CBC's been covering that heavily. So he got suspended indefinitely or something like that by ABC. I think the show's still on the air, but someone else is hosting it. Now, the way CBC presented it the first time I heard it, and I've only heard them talking about it really twice, all extensively, was he made a comment about the MAGA gang, make America a colony again. Oh, that's MAGA. How could I make a mistake like that? Yeah, that's what Donald Trump really is into. He's used to advertising for himself. When he says make America great again, he's really talking about making America a colony again. When America stopped being a colony of England, England was by far the most powerful country in the world. We're just starting to be, but the most powerful country in the world. And with France's help, the United States was able to get rid of England. Now, Donald Trump is in the process of turning America into at the very least, a vassal state, but I will say a colony of Russia, which is not even, I think, the 10th most powerful state in the world economically. I suspect it's less than a tenth the power of the United States, maybe even less powerful than Canada. Maybe it's a little bit higher. It used to be in the G8. Maybe it's 8th in the world. There's Donald Trump. Take us over, please, and I'll do all the faking. Now, I want to know more. CBC today, they were talking about the Kimmel suspension or whatever it was, pirate. And they were saying, I made some comments about Charlie Kirk. And Jimmy, buddy, I don't know what you were saying about Charlie Kirk. You shouldn't have been saying anything about him. You don't go around joking about assassinations, at least on national TV. I'm still trying to figure out. No one's actually said what he said about Charlie Kirk. I don't think a comedy kind of show where a show where there is comedy featured, like he'd have his monologue or whatever. I don't think that's a place to be talking about people getting assassinated. I want to know. Hopefully, I'll find out exactly what was said. But it probably was just inappropriate mentioning it in the first place. I think the name of the guy who was assassinated, was it at the University of Utah? I'm not sure. Somewhere in Utah. Haven't got very good coverage from any of the networks I listen to, right wing or left wing. They're the 660 on the dial, 770 on the dial are nut bar right wing, as far as I'm concerned. Seem to support Pierre Poilievre, one is Shaw, Rogers, and the other is, I don't know what it is, but shameful. But CBC is shamefully, they style themselves as left wing, not what I traditionally think of as, or what we should traditionally think of as being left wing. They do not support whatever they might jibber and jabber. They do not support working people, particularly